CFM Radio.
CFM Radio. Happy Wednesday. Indeed, it's the top of the holiday season, the Christmas season, if you will. It is December after all. And we have quite a show today. We've got a little bit on the video game new on the gaming news front. We're going to, as normal, start off with that.
Video game news.
Indeed, we did. And that release is what we're here to talk about. But we are also today going to touch on the PS5, the console, the most sold console, the console that everybody owns. Everybody, if you're a gamer, right, you own the PS5. If But Drix, did you know that the PS5 may have what some call the worst hardware defect since the 360? Indeed, and that is saying something because, like Drix is saying, the Red Ring of Death, that's no BS. You know what I mean? Like that was an ominous event. Yeah, that's what I was thinking with this story because it turns out this story um, and the cause of this horrible, horrible hardware defect on Sony's end is one that honestly, Drix, could make it as though there may not be a PS5 retro market to speak of. Mm-hmm. Yep, to be up and up and up, and like we're saying, like we had just told you, the PS5 is the next best-selling console, right beneath or right after the PS4 of its kind, like the HD style generation. You know, so it is the Nintendo Switch 2 is doing really, really well, and it probably will end up being the victor. But we will see if the PS5, if this PS5 hardware defect is one that you should be looking out for, A, and B, one that could possibly, as Drix and I are saying, affect the retro market. And finally, we're going to jump into it. The first thing that we're going to jump into tonight is the, of course, we're talking video game news, but this is all about the games, right, Drix? So we're going to start off with the talk of the games because I played the Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls second phase of the closed beta, I guess you could say. I did. I did, and I gotta say, so it's a very interesting situation with this one. Obviously, the main draw for the second phase of the beta was the new characters Spider-Man and Ghost Rider. I actually didn't play a lot of Ghost Rider because I was playing so much goddamn Spider-Man. Because if you're looking on the screen right now, you can unleash some pretty sweet combos. And I'm always in the black suit on these games, so and which is also a very nice costume, right? Absolutely. I agree. And the so I'll as far as the game itself, not too much has changed from the last time. They've tightened up the controls a little bit. The new characters obviously are very, very different. And the game, I don't know, feels just a little bit faster. It's for the type of game it is, the 4-on-4 tag fighter, right? It is surprisingly slow, surprisingly, uh, like, I should say manageably paced. We'll say it like that. Um, and it's less about that, honestly, and more just about straight accessibility. Because one of the things that well, not even in the case of tag team fighters, I think even the experts would agree that the main problem with it is someone just doesn't play for half the game. Well, not just that is that one player is getting comboed to death at even an intermediate level, and so the ability to assess the situation and make the right call in the moments is pretty nice. But they did pick up the tempo. However, one of the things that is getting criticized on is the lack of combos and the lack of combo routes. And it's not that the game doesn't have combos. In fact, a lot of the people will tell you, a lot of people who criticize it will see, you'll see online on places like Twitter or Facebook, they'll say the game actually does have a lot of combos, but the problem is that why learn them when you can do these auto combos that do all the team, like just send everybody out and everybody gets their hit and then you do big damage. Um, it's a very yeah, well, because this is one of those arc system works of I call them the post Dragon Ball Fighters era because that game, you and I both played that game a fair bit, and that game is very user friendly in the way where you have auto combos, and the auto combos aren't stupid; they're good, you know. And yeah, exactly, and since we're in the era of modern classic controls, or I guess easy controls, because they've again, not even in the quote unquote in the era, they've if fighting games fans know have these options, stylish, easy, whatever you want to call them, different. They've been called different things at different points in time. Auto combos now are made for you to utilize them in a competitive way. And I gotta tell you, when Arc System Works does this kind of thing, they are less friendly to the auto combo user than a publisher like Capcom, right? Like you can totally do your auto combo in this game and like get good big damage by you see it if you're watching the B-roll, you're seeing it sometimes. You see it right now. All of the characters, they do the little team up attack and it's like pretty cinematic and it looks pretty cool. Does good damage. But again, if you're watching the B-roll, you'll see when I do my moves, you can see that my most of the time I go for the longer moves or the longer combos or the more damaging combos because they end up the way that combo system is structured ends up rewarding you for staggering your use of your assists during a combo rather than just unloading all at once because um, and here's the thing I don't know where people say this game has no sauce. I don't know where the people say, oh, where's the combos because Drix. I'm going to tell you right now. I'll lay it out for you. Just a second here. This game's got some combos. I don't think that's the thing in this game. I don't think it's about it being infinite. It's all about the damage. It's all about the damage. Sure, but the main thing that it's funny that you mentioned something, an idea like that, like a tier list, because it's less. This game is less about the individual characters, and I think this is I think this is the real criticism that most people are trying to articulate, but really can't. The game is less about the individual characters and more about how these characters work in the system, much like, or in the system they're in, much like any Arc System Works fighting game these days. Grand Blue, Guilty Gear Strive, this game, they're less about the individual characters and more about the system and how the characters work in the system. Yes, exactly. But the thing that I feel as though Tokon does that a little bit differently, it's not it's not mind-blowing and it's not the craziest thing in the world, but I actually think it takes a page out of the Skullgirls book in where that you have this if you're watching the B-roll, you'll see whenever a combo starts going, it'll do the hit meter and then a little smaller meter that is segmented into blue and then red for the final third. It'll start appearing under the hit counter. That meter, when that fills up, it essentially knocks the enemy character into a hit stun that makes them invincible for a second, and they're allowed to recover. That's the thing, though, Drix. That's what the game would have you believe. But I'll tell you, after playing this game, and you might see it on these B-rolls, getting a couple perfects and getting perfected myself, I will tell you that this game gives you the rules, lays them out perfectly, and then gives you the tools to break them. It when it clicks, and it might not click for everybody because these auto combos, I'm not gonna lie, they're very strong. When there's a whole button dedicated to an assist button, and the assists themselves are less about extending your combo and more about setting up your opponent so you can open them up for a big combo. So yes, it's focusing. It's kind of like segmenting off the idea of the assist. You kind of have to think of every character as having two assists. They have an assist that they do when they're not doing a combo, or when you're not doing a combo, and they have the assist that they do when you are doing a combo. And the assists that they do when you're not doing a combo are like moves, like actual moves, like lasers, uppercuts, the usual stuff, right? Exactly. You got the moves that you think you would want to use to extend your combos, but that's not how this works. Everybody to extend your you can extend your combo with an assist, but the character is gonna come out and just do like maybe a quick 1-2 or a quick haymaker. Exactly. And the one of the main things that is interesting about the game is when you start cutting it down that way and you start playing against these people who are like, "Oh man, I'm just going to combo you." Yeah, you might get auto comboed and they might take half your life, right? Because some of these auto combos do. They'll take half your life. But if you're watching the screen, you'll see the life bars have these little segmented green bars underneath them. Those are your assemble bars, and that's essentially the main resource that you need to use. That's like your assist resource. Like if you use the assist in a meaningful way, either to extend your combo, to defensively, because you could use your assist defensively to like as a like a blowback. You see it right over there, the crossover counter. There's a lot of ways to utilize this, and when you use the auto combo to blow all of your assists in a big cash out, you use all those green bars. So if you don't finish me with it, you leave me with all of my green bars. Exactly. So it really becomes when at the I don't want to listen. I don't want to say like I hit like a high tier of player or anything, but I was playing against people who really knew what they were doing, and it got to a point where I I was almost forced to understand all of these concepts because everything in this game almost feels as though it has a purpose, but they're all very small parts of a larger whole, and it's I think some people will have a harder time swallowing that when they realize that maybe your Captain America isn't like super amazing and you can't like rely on him to like uppercut in the middle of a combo. But I use Star Lord, and later on, I use a lot of Iron Man, mainly because these characters they give you the classic style MVC3 esque assists utilization. Where in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, you really need to choose assists that don't just continue combos, or you also need to choose assists that can try to cover you when you're trying to do yeah, exactly. When you're trying to do your own setups, like, oh man, here comes Sentinel, and he's going to throw out some dudes, and they're slow moving projectiles, so I'm going to move behind you, and then I'm going to move in front of you, and then you're going to get hit, and then I'm going to open you up. That's what it really feels like you're supposed to use those kinds of assists for in this game. Less about combo extension, more about setting up and opening up your opponent. Yeah, yeah, not just the amount of combos you need to be thinking about, how you do them, how many of the extensions you're going to use, and if you're going to use one of the assists to get you there. That guy has a little bit of his own cooldown. It doesn't burn a bar, but he's got his own cooldown before he specifically can come out. Yeah, exactly. And you know what, Drix? At the end of the day, you beat me to my final point. Is that it's very funny because I'll say it like this: this weekend I was a Spider-Man player. I was all about Spidey. I was playing Spidey up and down, and I was learning a lot about the character. I did the same thing last time with Miss Marvel. I learned a lot about Miss Marvel, and I played the hell out of her. And this game allows you to do that. It allows you to play your characters, the character that you love the most, as the star, and the team as a backup, or to get the most out of your combos, or in certain times, certain characters can really pack an extra punch when you switch into them, too. Because you also have a long time that your character sits out there because they come out, they do their assist. It doesn't matter if they're comboing off with you or they're covering you. You see it when you watch the B-roll. They're out there for a long time. They're doing their little poses and stuff like that. The whole time they're out there, you can switch. Yes. Because every time you use your assist, you reduce that combo meter, that combo stopper meter, so you can continue the combos. And then when you switch out, you also make it drop. So there's a lot that you can do. There's a lot you can do, and there's a lot of ways that you can put your opponent in really messed up positions. But that is Marvel Tokon. I feel like this game, even though it's a little bit like when push comes to shove, You totally can have the people who utilize the auto combo, and they're I'm sure this game at the end of the day will have characters like how it was in Dragon Ball Fighters, like with like Boo, how he was in the beginning, where he's a character who's designed around his auto combo, but that is just one part of the whole game plan because he exists in a system with sparking and super dash. You know what I mean? He's got a bunch of other things that every other character can do, but he himself, much like Bardock was a lot like this, which was kind of ridiculous because he was so powerful. He was built around his auto combo. So you have these characters, they're always just one small part of the overall picture in an Arxis game. Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say I definitely think people after, especially after Rivals, I know a lot of people who are really looking forward to this who I didn't even think would be playing fighting games. Like it was like, oh man, it looks awesome. Yeah, and you know what, Drix? I will say before we jump into the Square story because it's a quick one. Um, this game I feel as though can really be that game that lets you have your multitude of Marvel experiences. You've got your Marvel fighting game, you got your Marvel adventure games. It doesn't matter what it is. Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, it doesn't fucking matter. You have it. You've got Wolverine comes out next year. You've got Marvel Rivals, a bunch of different Marvel superheroes in a shooting game. Like there's a lot of. If you're a Marvel fan, you're eating pretty good in the world of video games. Doesn't get much easier to get into that. Like yeah, exactly. Whether you like it or not. But yeah, right. Sony. But that really quick before we jump into our first break, we want to really quickly. I just have one screenshot to show before I explain exactly what this means for the parties involved. This is the Square Enix Next presentation from 3D Investment Partners, which is a the holding partner of Square Enix and their official representative of the board of directors. If you love what we do, remember to give us a like and subscribe and comment and all that good stuff. Share it around.
CFM.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I said, we don't. As for as big as a PDF, I believe it's what 300 slides. For as big as this PDF is, and for as long as this presentation is, I feel as though it explains itself in the first roughly 10. Because the immediately preceding slide to what you see on the screen right now is, quote, as one of the industry's leading game developers, Square Enix has long been at the forefront of game development. And it's picturing Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X and the main innovative elements from 97 to 2001, which is a 4-year difference, right? Noted. Um, the 3D characters, full motion video, cinematic storytelling, and flexible combat customization moved from Final Fantasy VII moved into an innovative space into full voice acting, 3D fields, highly strategic battle systems, and highly flexible development systems. You know, the sphere grid. But now that leads us to the slide that you lovely people are at home are looking at. The However, since the inauguration of the new management structure, the company's earning power has markedly deteriorated, and they're showing you here, Drix, the tenure of President Matsuda, who was formerly in charge, and the now president Kiryu, who took charge in June of 2023. And yes, and and yeah, not related to the organization, the IRL organization, but you know what, Drakes? I just wanted to show everybody this slide because this is the story of the whole presentation. You can look through everything yourself, and I highly suggest you do if you are a fan of Square Enix. It is the Square Enix Next That Excitement Once Again presentation. This is from the official PDF 300 slides. This whole thing is just different slides and different forms of what you're seeing on the screen right now, Drix. Especially so there are slides in here. Slide A3. The most damning ones are actually the ones with very little numbers, right? Because they come in the form of slides A3 uh through A4, and well, both A3s, I guess, because A3 part 1 and A3 part 2, titled Deficiencies in Product Design, Part 1 of 2. Square Enix's recently released core titles have received poor user evaluations, highlighting shortcomings in product design. Quote, recently released core titles have been harshly criticized. The Dragon Quest III remake. For context, everybody, Dragon Quest is very important in Japan. Um, so the Dragon Quest III remake in the slide, A3, mind you, quote, outdated and frustrating gameplay. Horrible. One of the absolute worst remakes ever. I just can't believe this god awful mess would be released in 2024. Unquote. Quote, random encounters every 3 or 4 steps. The ultra fast speed is sluggish. Really long loading times. Quote, it is a boring, irritating game. Yep. So here's another interesting one because you and I both genuinely liked this one. Final Fantasy 16, right? You and I both really liked this. But essentially because you've got it right here, the right underneath the title, quote, low quality that betrays fan expectations. Then the quotes, they say these quotes are from Metacritic, Drix. Quote, the turn-based active time battle systems that fans love have been replaced, unquote. Quote, the music which Final Fantasy is famous for is replaced by generic orchestral cinematic fantasy strings the whole time, unquote. Quote, why Square Enix don't listen to fans remains an eternal question. All in all, Final Fantasy VI is heartbreaking for Final Fantasy fans. Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? And it's pretty interesting to me because the other games, and here's the other games that they list on A3 Part 2 are Forspoken, Babylon's Fall, and Marvel's Avengers. And all three of those games are very critically panned, very critically just scrutinized for their quality, and you've got so many more. You have so many more examples in the same vein throughout the entire thing, comparing the revenue to that of Capcom, comparing revenue to that of Sega Sammy. You know, like, and Sega Sammy, for context, everybody, they came out and said, "Holy shit, guys, we have a bad quarter. Fucking no one likes definitive editions anymore." Like, unfortunately, in a results based in industry such as video games, it is the metric at which we use. But Drix, I think that's time, a good place to take our first break. And what are you going to be playing for us now that we're going to be jamming out for a minute? Final battle, CFM Radio. We'll be back.
CFM Radio.
CFM Radio, we are back. Hell yeah. Loved that game. Ha! But Drix, I do believe it is time for new releases. Are you ready? We've got first one is the one that Drix has been waiting for. It is Street Racer Collection. Oh. Ha! Absolutely. And here it is from the Steam page, too. Quote, Street Racer is one of the most insane and fun kart racers of the 90s. Run, fight, and win. Speed and brawls on crazy tracks. A classic that mixes racing and fighting, bringing back chaotic battles and irreverent humor for up to 4 players. And Drix, the collection releases today on PS5, PC, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, PC, and Nintendo Switch. Action. And Street Racer Collection is available today. Next up, we have Terminator 2D No Fate. It's the one we've all been waiting for. Because here it is from the official website, quote, play as Sarah Connor and the T-800 through a variety of thrilling missions as they take on the T-1000 and try to put a stop to Skynet's plans before the human race is annihilated. Lead the resistance as John Connor in the future, fighting on the front lines as mankind's only hope in the war against machines. In this unique story blending iconic scenes from Terminator 2, Judgment Day, with original scenarios and multiple endings, humanity's fate is yours to decide. And Terminator 2 No Fate releases this Friday, December 12th, for everything, man. PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, and the Nintendo Switch. And finally, Drix, we have Code Violet, a PlayStation exclusive. From the PlayStation Store, quote, dive into Code Violet, an exhilarating third-person horror game from Team Kill Media. In the 25th century, a cataclysm has left Earth uninhabitable, driving humanity's survivors to time travel and abduct. Oh no, so to Trappist 1E, sorry. Facing extinction due to sterility, an ion colony harnesses cutting edge time travel technology to abduct women from the past to be surrogates in a dark yet desperate bid to save mankind. Holy shit. but their mission conceals a sinister conspiracy. As Violet Sinclair, torn from your time, you must awaken in the Aeon Bioengineering Complex, swarming with ferocious prehistoric dinosaurs and hostile forces. Carefully manage your inventory, uncover Aeon's dark secrets, fight to survive, and escape during a chaotic evacuation protocol. Can you save those you care for and make it out alive? Code Violet releases exclusively for PS5 this Friday, December 12th. Drix, this is the most intense form of Dino Crisis I've ever heard. This is incredibly a Dino Crisis. Like, whoa, yeah. Dino Crisiser? Holy shit. It looks pretty crazy, I gotta say. You're out here fighting dinosaurs on trains, Drix. I might pick this up. Like, right, what if and you were a chick? Like, like, man, this is a crazy looking game. PS5 exclusives always have these boss ladies on them, these sci-fi boss ladies. Like, Slay Queen. Code Violet comes out Friday. If you have a PS5, you might want to check it out. If you miss Dino Crisis, you might want to buy a PS5 and check it out. But you may not want to buy a PS5 after we tell you what happens to them later on in their lives, maybe kind of possibly after the break. We'll see you right after this ballad that Drix is playing.
CFM Radio.
Ooh, the ending of Ghouls and Ghosts, Sharp X 6800, CFM Radio. We'll be back. Remember, like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
CFM Radio. Video Game News.
CFM Radio, we are here. Video Game News. Gotta love Katamari. They just released a new one. My girlfriend hasn't picked it up at all or anything like that. But I am not, surprisingly, gasp everyone, I'm not a Katamari fan, so I'm totally out of the loop. Hey, nothing wrong with that. They go hand in hand with video games. That's a Call of Duty tradition, you know. Like, and moving forward into making important decisions while stoned, possibly, we have Sony. Oh, Stony. And their latest, so here's the thing, right, Drix? The PS5, it is the winner. It took Xbox out. Old Yeller. Well, Drix, I say the console wars are only at an end if you believe that hardware defects do not matter. And because here's the thing, and I'll just put this comes from it comes from Twitter, but it is backed up with a lot of evidence. Here's the post. I'm going to shorten it up for you here. Incoming tweets on the screen. Everybody, don't freak out. It's just a tweet. Elon is not in the room. Yeah, Grok is nothing of the sort is in the room. So, we've got it right here. This is a post from Modificator89. He is a renowned commercial hardware repairman and tech. He is your guy. And he says, quote, PS5 myth busted. A PS5 Slim CFI 2016 console, which is less than a year and a half old, 1.5, has been standing vertically since purchase, is in for service, and has the same problem. Visible on the APU core are dried out and oxidized liquid metal LM revenants. The LM has formed a patch or clump, completely losing its thermal properties. This is why Sony introduced the major cooling change, deeper grooves and ridges to prevent leaks and dry spots in the PS5 Pro, and silently upgraded later CFI 2100 and 2200 and CFI 2116 Slim batches. They are actively fixing this persistent flaw. Conclusion: console position, vertical horizontal, does not prevent LM degradation. The fault affects even the newest, year-old revisions. The main cause is application quality and degradation over time and temperature. All PS5 consoles, regardless of model, will eventually require professional maintenance. Gonna get a little it's gonna get a little liquidy there, Drix, because here it is. I've got the picture coming up, resizing it on the screen right now just to show you the extent of this quote unquote liquid metal damage because, or the liquid metal defect, because you right there, seeing it on the screen, right smack in the middle. I've thrown it up there for you. It is absolutely apparent. You can see it right in the middle of the patch right there on the liquid metal patch. If I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, if anyone doesn't see it, it's right there. It's smack in the middle, like boom, boom. It, if it's very, very hard to miss, and we've got another picture he has from another example he brings to your attention. Again, really quick resize, but much like the other one. Yeah, because like I said, again, it's the circular divots in the middle of the liquid metal sheet. They look like They look like large circular ripples or half circle ripples, depending on which picture you were just looking at. You're seeing picture number 2 right now. This is, according to our boy, modificator Casper, the repairman. He is these is just going to happen, and we have posts. We have arguments against this. Here's one of them. But that one does not have grooves like the Pro. Here's the Pro, right? We've got it right here on the screen. We're going to resize this really quick because Modificator responds. Yes, it looks the same. They both got the ridges. Here, I'll zoom in for everybody. That's the Pro, the first one. And then we're going to move up to Modificator. That's the normal one. Exactly. They should not be... No, well, they should be looking like these Ruffles potato chips. They shouldn't be looking like they have big liquid bubbles that look like a bubble popped on your liquid metal sheet. So, like, again, side by side. At the top is the PS5 Pro. At the bottom is the regular PS5. And you know what? I'll give it to people, right? The PS5 Pro might look a little bit more rigid, might look a little bit more structured in its ridges, but both of them have these quote-unquote cooling ridges. And it still happens because these defect pictures depict huge bubbles in the PS5 liquid metal. Again, really quick, showing you the first one that we saw. Smack in the middle, you could see it in the center of the black square. There is a small like metallic rectangle, and that rectangle smack in the middle of it looks like huge bubble pops or ripples have happened on the liquid metal. So PS5 beware. But here's the thing, Drix. We've got we can't say that this is definitive because we have the anecdotal arguments. We have people responding here, and we had the person say, hey, PS5 versus PS5 Pro. No, actually, you're wrong, but we have other people here. Horizontal stand works. What happened is Sony uses less liquid metal than necessary, I think, on fat models to avoid spills and leaking while using vertically. I opened mine to clean after 3 years and noted it. Just added more. Spread correctly, had no issues at all to the dry spots. So I guess you could get liquid metal and put it on there. My console from 2020, it's vertical since day one, and I haven't had any issues. My friend has a CF11XX unit used vertically, overheated, and auto shut down about a year ago. Then he switched it to horizontal and has been running without issues ever since until now. And that's one of the things that Drix and I were talking about before the show. Me and Drix are really big proponents of retro gaming. And to be fair, as we're winding down the show here, we want to leave everybody with that sort of note that the PS5 Pro, on top of everything that you might call a problem, the online atmosphere, the constant connection to PlayStation Network, the fact that most single player games and most first party PlayStation games are requiring you to have an internet connection and connect to PlayStation Network, at least in part, to play the game. Beyond all that, guys, I think this console, the best selling console of the generation, again, put Xbox in the dirt for all intents and purposes. It has a huge hardware defect that going into the future will affect whether or not you're going to be able to play on this console. The liquid metal crisis. And the worst part about this is this liquid metal thing, like, it's a really messed up situation because, like, you're seeing in the other arguments, oh man, just get yourself some liquid metal, slap it on there. It's like, dude, really, I'm not a computer technician. Like, I don't want to open up my PS5 and mess something up, because you can. And there's a lot, right, there's a lot of things. Who knows how long you can extend that warranty, first of all. You can't do it indefinitely into the future. Like, yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that looking forward into the PS6 that people might not be looking at quite yet, but might want to be looking at now, is that backwards compatibility. All consoles are proving that they need to be backwards compatible, at least to a certain degree.
Than it should, or there's just too much voltage running through it. So just, try to keep that to a minimum. All my PS5 owners out there, just only leave it in rest mode if you're charging your controller or downloading and installing a big old game.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is that the rest mode doesn't really turn your console off or even conserve a lot of energy. It simply keeps it running so that it can get updates. And if your console has a risk of overheating, you really, really, really shouldn't be putting it in any kind of rest mode. Like,
yeah, just go ahead and just
turn it off.
Let that jet engine of a fan chill out completely.
Yeah, just turn it off. And you know what? Another thing, before we go, really quick, the faceplates. Remove the faceplates. It's not a big deal. Just remove the faceplates. Spray a little bit of that compressed air in.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. That'll probably do my joystick drift a bit of good as well.
Yes, that could be a little bit different if you're catching an early bit of early onset joystick drift. Definitely spray it with the compressed air. You might get a little bit of that dust out of there, but man, they're really trying to sell you that edge controller, ain't they, Drix?
Yeah. Absolutely, but everybody screen your controllers for joystick cancer early.
And with that, make sure you check your joysticks, rotate them around, make sure they don't go in one direction or the other, a little bit too harsh. And
Yeah. Do it by playing some games.
exactly. Do it by playing some games, because God knows that everybody could be playing more games.
Absolutely.
And Drix, I think that'll do it for our show tonight. Thank you everybody for listening. Might have been a few technical hiccups tonight, but other than that, everybody, thank you so much. We will see you next week for our final CFM Radio of the year.
Yeah, saying goodbye to 2025. It's been a lot of fun playing games and talking about them with my good buddy Vector here and with everybody out here on YouTube and the internet. So thanks again for another great year. And we'll see you next week one last time. Might even have a game review for you or something.
Ah, yes. And we will not have our CFM awards until February. We need all the time we can to assess these amazing releases that came out this year. But you know what? We want to make sure that we're getting even the ones that come out at the end of the year. You know, there's Metroid Prime, there's Dispatch. There's a lot of these games that didn't get their time in the Game Awards. And you know what, Drix? We don't want to be those guys being like, hey, this game came out, it's not eligible, you know?
Yeah, Code Violet. That's the one from this week's new releases.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy. Can't wait to play Dino Crisis again.
Dino Crisis again. But we will see all of you again next week.
Yep. Have a good night, everybody. Stay safe this holiday season. We'll see you next week for more video game music and news on CFM Radio.
CFM Radio, make sure you're liking, subscribing, sharing, and leaving a comment. Have a good night.